My grandmother's savings account was bleeding out $500 a week, and everyone thought the bank was making a mistake. It started with a nervous laugh. My grandmother, Noni, was reviewing her bank statements at the kitchen table. "They've got the numbers twisted," she said, tapping her index finger on a $400 withdrawal. "I haven't been to an ATM in months." We laughed it off at first. The bank must have glitched. But when it happened again the next week, even $500 this time, the laughter evaporated. Then came another and another. It was a perfect silent robbery. $500 every Tuesday. I was the only one she trusted. So I became the auditor. Everyone was a suspect. My aunt, who was struggling with a mortgage. My cousin, who had just started a business. It got ugly. Thanksgiving dinner that year wasn't about gratitude. It was about watching each other's pockets. Noni looked 10 years older. She was more heartbroken that a family member was hurting her than she was about the money. Everyone looked innocent, and everyone pointed a finger. Aunt Susan claimed the neighbor had access to Noni's emergency keys. Cousin Mike swore Noni was just forgetful. We actually dragged poor Noni to a cognitive assessment. The shame in her eyes still haunts me, just to prove she wasn't hiding money in her mattress. She tested perfectly, and the withdrawals kept coming. $500, $500, $500. Then, last Wednesday, I was taking out Noni's recycling. The bin was overflowing with junk mail. I was breaking down boxes when a small, crumpled piece of shiny thermal paper caught my eye. It was an ATM receipt. The date was yesterday, Tuesday. The location? A Chase branch 2 blocks from where my uncle, Arthur, worked. The transaction? $500 withdrawal. The blood in my veins turned to ice. Arthur was a quiet one, the reliable one. He'd been the loudest voice calling for an audit. He was the one who hugged Noni the longest when she cried. It wasn't about the money. It was about the sickening betrayal. I didn't call a big meeting. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I waited until Sunday dinner when the whole family was passing around the mashed potatoes. Arthur was there, acting like a hero, telling Noni he'd personally talked to the bank manager on Monday to fix this once and for all. I waited for a lull in the conversation. Then I pulled a small, clear plastic bag out of my pocket and set it on the table next to Arthur's plate. Inside was a single, folded ATM receipt, the one I'd found in the recycling. "Arthur," I said quietly, "you dropped this." The table went silent. Arthur looked at the bag, then back at me, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. I don't know what that is," he stammered. "That's strange," I replied, leaning back, "because I didn't find it at the bank. I found it in the bin under your old desk in the guest room. And what's even weirder is the timestamp. Tuesday at 10:15 a.m. That's exactly when you told Noni you were at your doctor's appointment." Aunt Susan gasped. Noni didn't say a word. She just stared at the receipt, like it was a ghost. Arthur tried one last time. "You're delusional. Anyone could have put that there." "I thought you might say that," I said, pulling out my phone. So I did some math. Every withdrawal was exactly $500. And every Tuesday for the last month, you've been treating the family to dinner, saying your freelance work was finally paying off. Dinner usually costs about $100, which leaves $400. I reached into my bag and pulled out a stack of $400 in 20s, still wrapped in a bank band. "I found this tucked inside your spare tire in the trunk of your car this morning while I was helping you check the air pressure. It's even dated for this week." Arthur didn't yell. He didn't confess. He just looked down at his plate, his hands shaking so hard his fork clattered against the porcelain. The silence was worse than a scream. Noni didn't cry either. She just stood up, took his plate away, and walked into the kitchen. I looked at him across the table. I didn't need to say a word. He knew he was already erased from the will. I just picked up my fork and took a bite of dinner. It was the best meal I'd had in years.